just beautiful. I would be out here every day if I worked in a building here nearby.
We're at the urban wetland at the Perth Cultural Centre, which is a piece of civic space perched between Perth's major cultural institutions, the Art Gallery of WA, the State Theatre, the West Australian Museum and the Library. And one of the key features of the Perth Cultural Centre civic space is this wetland. And it started off prior to the rejuvenation works that happened through here in 2009-2010. It was a classic 1960s brutalist water feature that was shallow, exposed to sun, had high energy pump and fountain that was noisy, had persistent water quality problems with algal blooms. It was chlorinated, and when we were working with the Metropolitan Redevelopment Authority to do the activation works and renewal works through here, we identified this as an opportunity to convert it into a freshwater ecology-based urban wetland. And the idea really was to provide an opportunity for reintroducing the types of plants and animals that were once common through this part of Perth before it was drained and became the city. And of course the idea was to work within the existing form, the existing concrete formwork. Just keeping in mind this is perched on top of art gallery storage, so that presented some challenges, but essentially the response was to look at putting in a bifiltration system that draws water from the water column down into the gravel and sand substrate, which then drains down into a low-lying point of the water feature, and then it brings it up and spills it over that wall behind us. And what that does is constantly draw well-aerated water down into that media to allow microbes to do the work of consuming nutrients and making those nutrients into plant available forms for all this vegetation to thrive, which from time to time gets harvested and taken out of the system. The micro grading was really important. We only had about 500 mil of profile to work with, and so considering there's about 250 mil of that media that I mentioned, the remaining profile was about sculpting in such a way where we provided a range of niches for plants that like the drier top of the moundings through to the types of plants that like that interface between the water and damp soil. The other thing is that we really wanted to have quite a still water feature. The wetlands that normally occur through Perth are expressions of the water table, and they're not moving water, they're not like streams or creeks. So it's designed in such a way where there is a small amount of water movement which is facilitated through an aeration system, and that's to ensure we don't get sort of stagnant parts. And the idea is that it's the right environment for local invertebrates and then also other fauna like fish and frogs to build up and to thrive in this space.
I know you've been monitoring the progress over time. What's happened with the flora and fauna?
Yeah, so the wetland has established very well. You can see the plantings have been very successful. These were all put in as tube stock, so only quite small plants, and they've colonised very well. We've followed that up with a series of fauna introduction events, and that included some invertebrates, but also focused on things like the local freshwater pygmy perch, several species of tadpole, which would then become frogs obviously, as well as glass shrimp and molluscs like freshwater mussels. And what we've seen is their recruitment has been very good. Their numbers have built up. We've also seen the arrival of a number of other freshwater invertebrates that have come here on their own accord, many of which have a flight component of their life cycle and have their nymph or larval stage in the water. And so the water quality monitoring and the fauna sampling has demonstrated the water quality is in really good shape. And we've had wonderful response from the public. It was interesting when this idea was first mooted and put forward. We had a few raised eyebrows, both from some of the institutions around us. There was a thought that perhaps this wasn't going to work and it would become a mosquito-ridden, cesspool. And there were even some other urban designers at that point who were making commentary on the radio and in the media, because it's a very high-profile spot. And that commentary was, not always that encouraging, saying, is there really a place for, this kind of wetland nature activity in the middle of the city? They were sort of locked into its historical brutalist design, but places have to evolve. Anyway, once it went in and settled in, the feedback was amazing. And from a space that was rarely used because it didn't look good, and the water fountain that was here was noisy and didn't encourage people to come and sort of use the space, Now you see kids and adults coming in. It's all been designed so you can step into the area on these little stepping duck boards and pontoons to encourage people getting closer to the water and seeing what's going on. And of course the main function of the space, which is an amphitheatre with the stage and the seating, is still very much in place. So there are concerts and performances here, and they are really well received. So it's a great example of where a bit of inner urban biophilia and civic space can go hand in hand.
Can't quite imagine watching a concert from here with this, with the wetland in the foreground like this. What is it like? Does it add a special dimension?
Look, it does, and see behind us here with the art gallery walls, they do big light shows onto that. So there's been some great events where there's performances happening on stage. 300 or 400 people are packed out around this amphitheatre, lights in the background, and it's really quite magical, you know, looking over this wonderful sort of water area here. In fact, a lot of the thought in the plant selection, particularly in this middle area, about keeping the plant profiles low so it's not obstructing the views to the main stage area.
Yeah. Would you imagine this could be done in other parts of the city, in or near or on top of other buildings? And would you recommend that other cities do this?
Look, absolutely. I mean, there are a couple of key benefits from doing this. Firstly, we converted what was a very unattractive, high energy and expensive to maintain water feature into something that is lower energy, lower maintenance cost. And so just in terms of asset management, it's a step forward. Add to that the fact that there's tremendous biophilic benefits for people to come and get to see a bit of thriving nature in the middle of the city. There's the local urban ecology benefits, but also there's urban stormwater benefits too. So this area, being a low point in the landscape, receives significant runoff from the surrounding paving, also runoff from some of the neighbouring buildings' roofs. And because we're in the middle of the city here, that brings with it urban pollution, hydrocarbons and dust and nutrients too. And this acts like a set of kidneys, if you like, treating that water before the overflow joins what is a main drain that runs under the city down into the Swan River. So I think these small constructed wetlands, if they're designed well, they can fulfil a number of purposes in our urban environments. And I think this one's an absolute cracker. The interest has been enormous, and it's appeared on TV and in loads of magazine articles and events and what have you. Loads of tours with councils and state agencies, but we've never seen it repeated elsewhere to the same level, and that's 7 or 8 years ago.